Slope word problems. Let's look at the slope when looking at a word problem. Number one, it says that Billy plans to paint baskets. And I notice here that it's going to cost $14.50 to paint. Or excuse me, that the paint costs $14.50 and the baskets cost $7.25 each. Remember, when we see that play of words, either each, per, a, every, it's a clue, it's a hint that what it's next to, the number that it's next to, is the pattern or the slope. So this here is going to be my slope. And the $14.50 is what I have to pay for the paint. So that's in addition to how much the baskets are. Now we have our equation, our function, and let's talk about the independent variable. It says look at the bolded words. We have to be careful. It says that the function of the number of baskets made is represented by this equation here. I want you to understand that function of this means f of x. So f parentheses x means function of x, which means the function of, remember x is independent, so independent variable, and whatever words come after of would be the independent variable. So the independent variable here is the number of baskets made. And so if that's independent, then we can write here the total number of baskets made, because we know that x is always first in the table, so this would be the independent variable. The dependent variable is going to be the total result, which in this problem is the total cost. So the dependent variable is the total cost to have the baskets made. So total cost baskets made. Okay, so now we have a table. It says that when zero baskets are made, you're going to have to spend $14.50, and that's because that is the cost of the paint. 2 says when 2 baskets are made, you pay $29 because you are paying $7.25 for each basket plus the cost of the paint, and so on and so forth. So I want to here describe the rate of change M in words. The biggest thing about this question that you need to know, we've already talked about slope meaning rise over run. We know that slope is the change in y over the change in x. Delta y over delta x is the same thing as saying the change in y over the change in x. We know that it is rate of change. We know that it is M. But the biggest thing about describing the slope in words is taking whatever the y is, the dependent variable, and putting it over the independent variable, y over x, rise over run, change in y over change in x. So the answer to this question is take the y, and it is the total cost per number of baskets made. So there's a very thin line here. We're seeing the word per again, but it's being used differently. It's telling us that it is y, the total cost, over the baskets made. So that is y over x. So it is the total cost to have the baskets made per number of baskets made. And that describes the rate of change, the slope in this problem. So what do I want you to remember from here on out? When it asks you for slope in words, take the y, whatever it is, and put it over the x. And the way they're going to show that is using the word per. And don't be confused, because remember, multiplication and division, you know, they're kind of friends. Some people call them enemies, but they're friends. So don't be confused. When it's sitting next to the number, the per, the each, the a, the every, it's telling you that that number in front of it is the pattern. But when it's used in between the words, it's giving you the slope. So y over x. What are other ways of saying slope besides m and rate of change? Well, we listed those. Dependent over independent, y over x, delta y over delta x, change in y over the change in x, rise over run, the famous rate of change. And I know I'm leaving something off. The formula. This is the slope formula. Of course, the letter m. So I know I left something off. I know I didn't put something. So if you can remember it, tell me in class. I'll give you extra points. Use the calculator to check the values in the table listed below. So I need to go grab a calculator because of course I don't have it at my desk. Duh, Miss Pierce. And I'm going to show you how to graph this in the calculator for those that don't already know. Give me a moment. I got to go get the calculator. Hold on. And they way in the back of the room. Okay, I'm right back. Okay, I'm back. So what we're going to do, go to the home screen. That's what it says. And there are two ways to get to, well, three ways to get to the graphing. You can go here and press graph, although I don't advise it because there's a few things you can't do when you're in Scratchpad. But if you come down here to graph and highlight that, press enter. It'll make you feel real good. It'll give you and get you to the graphing screen. So let me see if I can darken this so that you can see and it's not so bright. Okay, that's a little better. So now what do we do? After you go there, it gives you the X and Y axis, the graphing screen, and the calculator. Now there is another way to get to the graphing screen. It's a little more difficult. You come over here to new document right there, and you hit enter or the middle. It says, do you want to save? We always say no. And then you go to add graph, which I think is just more steps. Honestly, it's easier to come down here and just do that. And you're done. So whichever one you want to do. But now that we're there, I want us to type in the function so that we can check the table. So it says f of x already. So what you have to do is just put in the pattern, the slope. The x is at the bottom of the calculator down here. And then you put plus 14.5 and press enter. And there's the graph. So now we need to get to the table, and it tells you what to do. Press enter and then Control T. Control T. Control T will always take you to the table. So now we can check those values. 0 is 14.5. 2 is 29. 5, I have to go down, is 50.75. And 9 is 79.75. So we're in good shape. It says here, Control T does what? It shows you the table. And I'm going to put X, Y. The graph button does what? Well, it takes you to the graphing screen. And so what you're going to do tomorrow when you come into class, or whenever you come into class and we're talking about slope word problems, you're going to go ahead and fill this first page out because you're going to already know the numbers and know the answers, and move on to the next page and surprise your teacher. Okay, I'll do number 2. The graph shows the height of a plant over a period of days. Find the rise over run of the line, so find the slope. Well, the slope is, in words, y over x, which is the height per number of days. Okay, so you could say the height per day. Don't have to put the number of days, makes it sound weird. The height per day. Yeah, I like that better. The height per day. So the f of x equals the function of, what would you put in here? Time and days, because you put the independent variable after that. F of x, function of independent function of time and days. Okay, here it says f of x equals. What is it wanting you to know? Well, f of x here is y. Remember, f of x and y are the same thing. And so what does y equal? In this question, it is the total height. Yeah. Just wanting to know, do you know what it means in words? Can you tell me all this stuff in words? Now, extra credit says to find the slope using the slope formula. So we have oh, bless me. So this is going to be x1, y1. This is going to be x2, y2. And so the formula, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, 10 minus 20 over 30 minus 50. And that's going to be negative 10 over negative 20, which is just a positive 1/2. And so don't freak out. If you're saying, what, miss? Let me show you what to do in the calculator, okay? We're going to go home, and then we're going to come over here to where it says calculator, because that's the calculator screen of this big old nice looking calculator. It's nice. It has so many different screens. We can do so many different things. So now I'm going to type that in. Now how do you get to fraction? You hit this button here, right next to 9, and use that fraction there. And now we just type in 10 minus 20 over 30 minus 50. Press enter. Look, it does it for you. So no worries, no worries. You can use the calculator on the STAR test. You can use the calculator in class. It's now calculator season. We're now using the calculator to benefit us in class. I think I want to do number 4, and then I'll call it quits. Number 4 says, given the word problem below, write the equation or the rule. When I say write the equation, I'm really saying write the rule. So the total cost, remember we said total earlier, total cost, that's going to be y, is, it's an equal sign, 7, that means 7, less than, it's going to give me minus, twice the amount of shoes. So twice is going to be 2, and it's going to be times, x is going to be the amount of shoes. So the independent variable is the total amount of shoes. We know that. And I can say total on that. But remember, dependent is always going to be the result. So for this problem, it's going to be the total cost. Now it says the equation is, now this is the tricky part. Whenever you have less than, you don't do 7 minus. It's going to flip and be 2x minus 7. You have to write it that way or else it's wrong. Don't forget that the y becomes f of x. Okay? And now what is the slope in words? So for this problem, I have to put whatever the y is over the x. So it is the total cost per shoe. I don't need an S on that. The total cost per shoe. Total cost per shoe. Use the calculator to fill in the table. Okay, so I'm going to go up here because I already have a graphing screen open. Okay, and how do you get rid of that table? Control T. And what are we going to do? I'm going to hit tab. It brings the equation back up. And you know what? I don't like this here. I want this disappeared, and there's a way to delete it. But instead of doing that, let's just practice going back to the graphing screen. So now we can get some practice in on how to get a new one each time. And so I'm going to type in 2x minus 7, press enter, and then press Control T to see my table. And there it is. I need -3, so I go up, and then I do -13. And then I go down to -1, it's -9. And then 1 is -5. And then 10, I gotta go all the way down, it's 13. So you just looked at the table by pressing Control T. I showed you how to go back to the home screen. And now you know the table for this equation, and you didn't have to do the input and output table that we've been doing, plugging it into the machine. So you should now be able to complete this in class with no problems. And if not, the student teachers will be around in the classroom to help you, or you can come see me to get assistance. See you in class.